One legend lies beneath a headstone visitors leave guitar picks on. Another rests on private land no camera has ever filmed. One grave sits beside a highway, built by fans who refuse to let him be forgotten. Tonight, we walk among the graves of country music's greatest stars. Nashville built its legends on heartbreak, whiskey, gospel harmonies, and highways that never seemed to end. But every one of these stars, no matter how loud the applause once was, eventually came home to silence. Some of these graves are visited by thousands every year. Others sit quiet, almost hidden. Let's begin. Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash didn't just sing country music, he became its conscience. With a voice that sounded like gravel and thunder, he built a career on outlaws, prisoners, and redemption, culminating in the massive success of songs like Ring of Fire and Folsom Prison Blues. He performed live inside actual prisons, turning convicts into a devoted audience and turning himself into an American icon. But behind the black-clad legend was a man in constant pain, battling illness for years. On September 12, 2003, Johnny Cash died from complications related to diabetes, just months after losing his wife. His funeral drew country royalty from every era, a farewell fit for a man who had outlived nearly every trend in the genre. Today he rests at Hendersonville Memory Gardens in Tennessee, beside June Carter Cash, their headstones facing each other like they're still finishing a conversation. Fans still leave guitar picks and handwritten notes at the grave. Few love stories in music history ended quite this poetically. June Carter Cash. Before she ever became Mrs. Cash, June Carter was already country music royalty, born into the legendary Carter family that essentially invented commercial country music decades earlier. Her career spanned comedy, songwriting, and unforgettable performances, but her defining achievement came through Ring of Fire, a song she co-wrote that became one of the most iconic tracks in American music. On May 15, 2003, June passed away following complications from heart surgery, just months before her husband. Nashville mourned her not only as a performer, but as the woman who steadied one of music's most turbulent stars. Her grave beside Johnny's has become a pilgrimage site, drawing fans who see their love story as proof that even legends can be human. But that's only part of the story. Some visitors leave items specifically for June alone, small tributes to a woman who spent decades quietly holding an empire together. Her resting place isn't just a grave. It's a monument to loyalty. Patsy Cline. Patsy Cline had one of the most haunting, powerful voices country music has ever produced, the kind that could turn heartbreak into something almost holy. Songs like Crazy and Walkin' After Midnight made her a crossover star, respected by pop audiences and country purists alike. Her career was accelerating fast when tragedy struck. On March 5, 1963, the small plane carrying Cline crashed in a forest near Camden, Tennessee, killing everyone aboard. She was only 30 years old. Thousands attended memorial services held in her honor, and the shock rippled through the entire music industry. Patsy Cline was laid to rest at Shenandoah Memorial Park in Winchester, Virginia, marked today by a bronze bell tower memorial that chimes every hour. Fans still travel from across the country just to hear it ring. Few know that after the crash, several other country stars refused to fly for years, terrified of suffering the same fate. Her voice outlived the tragedy that ended it. Hank Williams. Hank Williams didn't just write country songs. He wrote the blueprint the entire genre would follow for generations. With hits like Your Cheatin' Heart and I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry, he turned raw emotional pain into some of the most enduring music ever recorded. But behind the songwriting genius was a man consumed by chronic back pain, alcohol, and prescription drugs. On January 1, 1953, Hank Williams was found dead in the back seat of his Cadillac, the cause linked to heart failure worsened by alcohol and medication. He was only 29. His funeral in Montgomery, Alabama drew a crowd so massive that police struggled to control it, with thousands lining the streets just to catch a glimpse of the procession. He now rests at Oakwood Annex Cemetery in Montgomery, beneath an elaborate monument befitting a founding father of the genre. Some visitors claim strange feelings near the grave at night, though there is no confirmed evidence of anything paranormal occurring there. What is confirmed is his influence, still audible in nearly every country song written since. George Jones. George Jones earned a nickname that said everything about his career: the Possum, a man whose voice could bend and ache in ways few singers could match. His signature hit, "He Stopped Loving Her Today," is still considered one of the greatest country songs ever recorded, cementing his reputation as a vocal powerhouse. Jones battled addiction for decades, famously earning another nickname, No-Show Jones, for missing performances during his darkest years. He eventually got sober and experienced a career resurgence before his health began declining in his final years. On April 26, 2013, George Jones died from hypoxic respiratory failure. His funeral in Nashville became a massive tribute, with country stars performing live for a crowd that packed the arena. He was buried at Woodlawn Memorial Park in Nashville, in a mausoleum built specifically to honor his legacy. The grave still draws visitors today, many humming his most heartbreaking song as they walk past. For a man once defined by chaos, his final resting place radiates dignity. Tammy Wynette. Tammy Wynette became known as the First Lady of country music, and her defining anthem, "Stand By Your Man," turned her into one of the genre's most recognizable voices. Her career soared through the 60s and 70s, blending vulnerability with strength in a way that resonated across generations. Her personal life, including her turbulent marriage to George Jones, only deepened public fascination with her music. On April 6, 1998, Tammy Wynette died suddenly from a blood clot, shocking fans who had followed her decades-long career. Her funeral in Nashville was attended by country royalty, a farewell befitting one of the genre's most influential women. She was laid to rest at Woodlawn Memorial Park, not far from George Jones, the man whose music remained forever entwined with hers. Years later, something unexpected happened. Questions arose about the true circumstances of her death, leading to a court-ordered exhumation and further medical review. The mystery didn't end there, but her music remains untouched by controversy, as powerful today as it was decades ago. Conway Twitty. Conway Twitty spent decades as one of country music's most consistent hitmakers, racking up an astonishing number of #1 singles that few artists in any genre have ever matched. Before country stardom, he even had early success as a rock and roll performer, but it was his smooth baritone and devoted fan base that made him a country legend. His biggest achievement wasn't a single song, but his sheer dominance on the charts across multiple decades. On June 5, 1993, Conway Twitty collapsed after a performance and later died from a ruptured abdominal aortic aneurysm. His sudden death stunned the country music community, coming without warning after what seemed like a normal show. He was buried at Sumner Memorial Gardens in Hendersonville, Tennessee, near many other Nashville legends. Fans still visit in surprising numbers, drawn by nostalgia for an era when his voice dominated every radio station in America. Few remember that he built an entire entertainment complex, Twitty City, dedicated to his fans. That devotion, it seems, went both ways. Waylon Jennings. Waylon Jennings helped invent an entirely new sound in country music, one that rejected polished Nashville production in favor of raw, rebellious energy. Alongside artists like Willie Nelson, he became a pioneer of the outlaw country movement, forever changing what the genre could sound like. His career reached new heights with hits like Good-Hearted Woman, but his personal story carried a chilling twist most fans never fully process. In 1959, Jennings gave up his seat on a plane that later crashed, killing Buddy Holly and others aboard, a decision that haunted him for the rest of his life. Decades later, on February 13, 2002, Waylon Jennings died from complications related to diabetes, a battle he had fought for years. He was buried in Mesa Cemetery in Mesa, Arizona, a quieter resting place than many might expect for a man of his stature. But that's only part of the story. His widow, fellow musician Jessie Coulter, has spoken about visiting the grave as a place of peace rather than mourning. For an outlaw, it's a strikingly gentle ending. Merle Haggard. Merle Haggard turned a difficult, troubled youth, including time spent in prison, into one of the most respected songwriting careers in American music history. His songs, including Okie from Muskogee, captured the voice of working-class America in a way few artists ever achieved. He became a defining figure of the Bakersfield sound, an alternative to the polished Nashville style dominating the charts. Remarkably, Merle Haggard died on April 6, 2016, exactly on his 79th birthday, following complications from pneumonia. His passing felt almost symbolic to fans who saw poetry in the timing. He was laid to rest on his own ranch property in Palo Cedro, California, a private resting place away from public cemeteries entirely. The grave still draws quiet reverence today, even though it isn't open to public visitors. Few know that Haggard wrote music almost until his final days, refusing to slow down even as his health declined. His legacy, much like his voice, remains impossible to fully contain. Charley Pride. Charley Pride broke barriers most artists never had to face, becoming one of the first black superstars in a genre historically dominated by white performers. His warm, powerful voice carried hits like Kiss and Angel Good Mornin', making him one of the best-selling artists of his era. He was eventually inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, a recognition of both his talent and his historic impact on the genre. On December 12, 2020, Charley Pride died from complications related to COVID-19, a loss that struck especially hard during a difficult year for the entire music industry. His funeral was private, reflecting the pandemic restrictions of the time, but tributes poured in from across the country music world. He was laid to rest at Restland Memorial Park in Dallas, Texas, not far from where his career first began to rise. The grave still draws visitors today, many reflecting on how far he pushed a genre to grow. His story remains one of quiet courage set to music. Roy Orbison. Roy Orbison's voice seemed to belong to another world entirely, capable of soaring into operatic highs most singers could never attempt. Blending rock, pop, and country influences, he became a genre-defying legend with hits like Oh, Pretty Woman, and Crying. His career experienced a stunning late-career revival in the 1980s, proving his talent was timeless rather than tied to any single era. On December 6, 1988, Roy Orbison died suddenly from a heart attack, just as his comeback was reaching new heights of success. His death shocked fans and fellow musicians who believed his greatest chapter was only beginning. He was buried at Westwood Village Memorial Park in Los Angeles, a cemetery known for housing several legendary entertainers. Years later, something unexpected happened. Posthumous releases and collaborations, including work with the Traveling Wilburys, kept his voice alive on the charts for years after his death. His grave remains a quiet stop for fans who still can't quite believe that voice is gone. Kenny Rogers. Kenny Rogers built one of the most versatile careers in country music history, moving effortlessly between pop, gospel, and traditional country sounds. His signature song, The Gambler, became so iconic that its lyrics entered everyday American vocabulary, a rare feat for any artist. Rogers also found major success as an actor, further expanding his fame beyond the music charts. On March 20, 2020, Kenny Rogers died peacefully at his home under hospice care, with his family confirming the cause as natural causes. Due to the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic, his funeral was held privately, with a public tribute concert postponed for the safety of fans. Kenny Rogers was cremated rather than buried, meaning there is no traditional public gravesite for fans to visit. This surprises many who search for a headstone that simply doesn't exist. Instead, his memory lives on through memorials, tribute performances, and a catalog of songs still played on country radio every single day. Sometimes, a legacy needs no headstone at all. Loretta Lynn. Loretta Lynn turned her own hardscrabble upbringing into groundbreaking songwriting, tackling subjects other country artists were too afraid to touch. Her autobiographical hit, Coal Miner's Daughter, became not just a song but a cultural phenomenon, later inspiring an Oscar-winning film about her life. She spent decades as one of the most respected voices in country music, unafraid of controversy or convention. On October 4, 2022, Loretta Lynn died peacefully in her sleep at her home in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee, closing out a career that spanned more than 6 decades. Her family held a private service, honoring her wish for a quiet farewell despite her massive public legacy. She was laid to rest on her own ranch property, the same land where fans had visited her museum for years. The grave still draws quiet visitors today, many walking the same grounds where she once gave tours herself. Few realized just how personal that land had always been to her story. In death, as in life, she never left home. Jim Reeves. Jim Reeves possessed one of the smoothest, most soothing voices in country music history, earning him the nickname Gentleman Jim for his polished, velvet delivery. His hit, He'll Have to Go, became a defining crossover success, blending country storytelling with pop sensibility that reached audiences far beyond Nashville. His career was still climbing when tragedy struck without warning. On July 31st, 1964, Reeves died when the small plane he was piloting crashed in bad weather near Nashville, killing him and his manager instantly. The wreckage wasn't found for 2 days, a detail that haunted fans who had been anxiously awaiting news. He was buried near his hometown of Carthage, Texas, where fans later built a large memorial park specifically to honor him. The site still attracts visitors decades later, a testament to how deeply his voice resonated. Some listeners claim to hear unreleased recordings of him that surface even now, though most were simply unfinished sessions completed posthumously. His voice, gentle as ever, still plays quietly across generations. Ernest Tubb. Ernest Tubb helped shape the honky-tonk sound that would define country music for decades, blending twangy guitar work with relatable, everyday storytelling. His breakout hit, Walking the Floor Over You, became a massive success and helped establish him as one of the genre's earliest superstars. Beyond performing, Tubb opened a legendary record shop in Nashville that became a cultural landmark for country fans and aspiring musicians alike. On September 6, 1984, Ernest Tubb died from complications related to emphysema, a battle worsened by decades of heavy smoking. His funeral drew a wave of tributes from fellow Grand Ole Opry performers who credited him with helping launch their own careers. He was buried at Hermitage Memorial Gardens in Nashville, a fitting resting place for a man so tied to the city's musical identity. The grave still draws visitors today, many stopping by his record shop first before making the trip. Few realize how many future legends got their start performing on his late-night radio show. His influence outlived his voice by decades.